Trump cabinet members attending the White House Easter egg roll will have a new game to play. Who gets fired next? If you believe the betting markets, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is out next, then Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-Dermer and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. I would not take the Hegseth bet. A real season of The Apprentice cabinet edition is going to play out over the next few months. If Trump wants to reshuffle his cabinet for the next 2 years before he leaves office in 2029, it's got to happen now. All the polls show the midterms will be a wipeout for Republicans. Getting someone like Hegseth past a Democratic-led Senate or a slim majority Republican one will be very tough. Hegseth did get through in 2025. It was tough. That was when the president was coming off a landslide win with poll numbers at their highest point ever. Today, he's sitting at 33%. And the senators on the fence about a pick, Susan Collins of Maine, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, can now say just no. Take yesterday's firing of Attorney General Pam Bondi. If Trump tried to permanently replace her with someone like Ron DeSantis, probably get through. But if he went for a super MAGA pick like Texas AG Ken Paxton, not a chance. With us in a moment, former Trump campaign White House Deputy Communications Director Caroline Sunshine, Senior Kamala Harris advisor Mike Nellis, Steve Cortes, former Trump advisor. First, NewsNation's Libby Dean, live from the White House, where the president is spending this Easter weekend. Good evening, Libby.
Hi, Leland. The main focus here at the White House today on the war with Iran, of course, but behind the scenes, there is a lot of talk about cabinet change-ups, given in the last month here, 2 top officials are out. That's, of course, Noem and Bondi. And there's also this chance that more changes could be coming if President Trump does move the EPA administrator, that's, of course, Lee Zeldin, into that attorney general role. But right now, we know this seems to be an audition for the now acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, who was once, of course, Trump's personal attorney and Bondi's deputy attorney, now serving as the acting attorney general. The other one to watch for here, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, given her differing views on Iran from President Trump's, and also these reports that she's on the outs. But Gabbard's deputy chief has actually called those reports of her ousting fake news. Now, the president is ousting less cabinet members this time around, but an interesting stat here, Leland, that is once Attorney General Jeff Sessions was in this role of Attorney General longer than his close ally Pam Bondi was. Leland?
Good point. Libby Dean, thank you. Mike Nellis, Caroline Sunshine, Steve Cortes with us now. Good to see all of you. Ladies first, Caroline, does the president need to shift course a little bit from the loyalists, perhaps, that he got through in the beginning of Trump 2.0 and shift a little bit of his strategy to more focused on competency and people who can really run their departments?
I actually think the change is less about people and it's more about overall vision. The president really has to get back to talking about and fulfilling the things that won him the 2024 election. This morning I went to McDonald's and it cost $5.99 to get an Egg McMuffin and $20 for one person. We're on this show, we're talking about him.
You spent $20 for breakfast at McDonald's?
$20 for one person to have an Egg McMuffin, a hash brown, and an orange juice at McDonald's. So the personnel can come and go. Pam Bondi leaving, replace her, replace this. But the fact is, Americans are going to celebrate Easter this weekend. They're going to move on from that news cycle, and they're still going to be faced with the reality of high prices and reality. So it's less about changing people and more about getting back to the original vision, which was the winning vision.
Mike, I feel like Caroline sounds awful lot like you these days.
Yeah, we're not that far away, although I don't know how much she's buying at McDonald's to spend $20. That's a lot. But I think the president was elected on 2 core promises, right? It was 1, I'm going to make everything less expensive. 2, I'm not going to send young men and women to go fight overseas in another forever war. He's basically broken both of those promises. And the average American was struggling before President Trump took over, and now they're struggling even worse. It's why his approval rating is so low. So all this talk of firing Bondi, firing Tulsi Gabbard, other members of the cabinet going, it's just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic because they don't have a plan to improve people's lives and make it easier for them to survive right now.
Steve, do I get like a third amen here ahead of Easter?
No, you will not. But I will say this. I mean, I certainly concur with both of the other very astute guests that the president absolutely needs to get back to domestic policy and to affordability here. This war needs to wrap up and refocus on the trajectory that we had pre-war, which was growing real wages. That's the most important component, by far the most important metric for most Americans regarding their prosperity. That was expanding pretty steadily and aggressively pre-war. So end this war, get back here. As far as the game of personnel in Washington, D.C., I think that matters very little to Americans. It's about affordability at the end of the day. It's affordability. We've got to get back to that agenda, no matter which people survive and who does, who doesn't, whatever the prediction markets
Steve,
tell
you know
us.
better. You know better than anybody. Affordability basically revolves around if you're going to pass big laws and big structural changes and then wait for them to happen. That is really not an option for President Trump right now. It was an interesting moment at the White House on Wednesday. President Trump talking about, I think, the big difference between Republicans and Democrats, which is a view of how much America can spend, for lack of a better term, on social programs. Take a listen.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. It's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things.
Mike, that sounds like an opening for Team Blue.
Yeah, that's an incredible in-kind contribution to the Democrats in this election, because what drives me nuts about the Republican Party, what drives me nuts about Donald Trump is we had money over the summer last year to cut taxes for billionaires again for the 100th time. We've got money to send overseas to blow stuff up in a war that I think the average American doesn't want and doesn't understand what we're doing. But we don't have money to make sure that people don't go bankrupt when they get sick. And I think it just drives me absolutely crazy. America first, as much as I think it was a dog whistle on immigration for anything else, it was about investing here in the United States. This president hasn't done that. And he released his budget this week, and his budget is all about spending more money overseas than it is spending money here.
All right, so we got agreement generally that the economy is what's going to matter over the next few months from the three of you, and somehow Caroline's going to buy us all McDonald's next is what I got from this part of the segment. But there is another part to this. I thought we were going to talk more about confirmation hearings, but there is sort of this big, perhaps unknown out there. I think it is the Supreme Court. You think about it, Clarence Thomas is 77, Samuel Alito is 76, Sonia Sotomayor is 71. But you think about Thomas and Alito, there is going to be a lot of pressure on them over the next few months to step down. Alito just had to go to the hospital. Thomas has had his own issues so that Trump could appoint somebody. I'm going to trigger you, Mike. What do Democrats do in that case other than just squeal like stuck pigs?
I mean, I think we fight and we do our best, but ultimately they're going to be able to pass that Supreme Court nominee if they're unified. But I don't think it changes the outcome of this election for Trump. Like, unless they do something that materially improves the lives of the average American, they're going to lose the House. And right now, I would say they're at risk of losing the Senate, with Texas, Alaska, Iowa, a bunch of these other states getting really close for them. One of them is going to go, and they're going to lose control of the Senate. So if they want to switch out the Supreme Court, somebody need to do it now.
Yeah, Steve, Leland, you agree on that?
Yeah, to this point of the Supreme Court, I don't think it's even months away. I hope it's days and weeks to pressure these two justices, both of whom are champions, by the way. They need to retire, do the right thing. Don't pull a Ruth Bader Ginsburg and hang on too long into potentially a Democrat administration or a Democrat Senate. They need to retire now and be replaced. And I believe it should be Ron DeSantis, the first nominee, to replace one of them, perhaps the second, Ted Cruz. But there are people we can get through this Senate right now who would get confirmed. It is absolutely vital, not just for the next few months and into this election, but for perhaps the next decades of the United States, that we properly replace
Mike,
these guys.
I think Mike would agree with me when I said there is no chance that a Trump nominee gets through a Democrat-controlled Senate. That just will not happen. Yeah.
No,
all
but
right,
feel
Mike,
free to nominate
Caroline,
Ted Cruz, though.
Oh, you said not if they nominate?
I said feel free to nominate Ted Cruz, though. I just think that's a funny choice for Republicans.
Well, I mean, there'll probably be some Democrats in the Senate who vote yes just to get him out of the Senate. But
that's right.
I shouldn't say that.
You picked up on the
That's Friday night on TV. Mike, Caroline, Steve, great panel. Thank you all.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.